Common ancient ancestor lived sometime between 4 and 9 million years ago in Africa and eventually gave rise to hominids. So some characteristics that distinguish hominids from other hominoids. So what distinguishes ancestors of modern humans from other great apes? Omnivorous. What that means is that we have evolved to eat both plant and animal matter. Bipedal locomotion. We walk on 2 feet. We don't need to drag our knuckles on the ground for support. We can stand fully upright and walk on our 2 feet as we are eating our plant and animal matter. We have our lovely opposable thumb. Oh, what would we do without this opposable thumb? We wouldn't be able to button up our buttons. We wouldn't be able to hold a pen and write. Our opposable thumb has been a huge evolutionary advantage for us. We have a remarkable increase in our brain size when compared to, say, chimps. Chimps have a much smaller brain than we do. So what we see in this image is some of the physical characteristics that are distinguishing modern humans from hominoids such as apes. You can see a change in our jaw size, and also we have a much larger pelvis. This larger pelvis is vitally important because what that does is allow modern humans to give birth to offspring that have much larger cranial capacities, much larger brains. Without that larger pelvis, not only would there not be room for the developing fetus to have a large brain, but it would be impossible for the mother to give birth to an offspring with a brain that big. She simply wouldn't be able to pass it through the birth canal. Okay, so this is looking at a cladogram of hominoids, and as you can see here, there was an ancient ancestor that gave rise to hominoids, which are include all of the great apes. From that came hominids, which include the orangutans, the gorillas, the chimps, and eventually Homo sapiens sapiens, us. Another common ancestor, and yet another common ancestor that gave rise to chimps, Australopithecus, and the genus Homo, which includes Homo sapien neanderthals and Homo sapiens sapiens, which is us. So we have a common ancestor with chimps. We did not evolve from chimps. We have a common ancestor with gorillas. We did not arise from gorillas. We did not evolve directly from gorillas. All right, so let's take a look specifically at hominid evolution. So there are some general trends in hominid evolution over time, such as an increase in brain size and also in body matter. Body mass. There has been a reduction in our lower face, so our jaws have become increasingly smaller as our brains are getting bigger. This is unique in evolution. Typically, there's more of a direct ratio between jaw size and brain size, but as we began to cook our food, our jaws have become smaller and smaller because we don't have to process our food so much when we're eating it. And also our brow ridges have become less prominent, so they don't stick out as far. There has been an increase in the width of our pelvic opening, and I talked about this. It's so that it gives us a larger birth canal so that we can give birth to offspring that have much larger brains. And then the presence of the Broca's area, which is vitally important because it's the Broca's area from which our language comes. Humans, I believe, are one of the few, if not the only, species that have a Broca's area, which indicates a rise in language. And this is just looking at, this is an artist's interpretation based on fossils that have been found of the physical evolutionary changes that have occurred to hominids over time. Australopithecus, which stands for southern ape, first known hominid to be found. So when we use carbon dating to date the fossils of that have been found by paleontologists, Australopithecus is the oldest fossil. Australopithecus did walk upright, and there are 4 known species of Australopithecus. Australopithecus lived between 4.4 and 1.1 million years ago. Lucy is the famous fossil that is Australopithecus. If you look at Lucy, what you will notice is she has quite long arms in comparison to her legs. Her arms come almost all the way down to her knees, and if you stand upright, you'll notice your arms do not come almost all the way down to your knees. So what this indicates is that Australopithecus did walk upright, but they still probably used their knuckles for balance and locomotion. Homo habilis, handyman, because he used tools. He has a smaller face but a larger brain than Australopithecus, indicating probably an increase in intelligence, which is demonstrated from his use of primitive tools made out of stone and bone. Homo habilis lived about 1 to 2 million years ago. Artist interpretation of what Homo habilis may have looked like, and one of the skulls that was found. As you can see, it resembles modern humans, but doesn't quite look like us. A little bit bigger and primitive than a modern human skull. These were some of the tools that were used by Homo habilis. So again, very primitive, but yet using tools is an evolutionary step. All right, Homo erectus, larger brain than Homo habilis. We can see evolution occurring. By about 1 million years ago, the genus Homo had spread from Africa to Europe and Asia, and Homo erectus is the first evidence that we have of this movement. They were excellent tool makers. They crafted and used hand axes. They used fire for cooking. And they lived in primitive huts, so we're really starting to see a society begin to develop, a culture beginning to develop. And they used speech. It is indicated that they used speech to communicate. And this is an artist's interpretation, and what you'll notice is that Homo erectus is beginning to form social groups that are gathering around a fire to cook food, to share responsibility, to share stories as well. So really beginning to see primitive civilization and societies evolve. All right, Homo sapien Neanderthals. Now, this word Neanderthal, there is a TH. It can be pronounced Neanderthal, but it is correctly pronounced Neanderthal because the first fossil was found in Germany, and in the Germanic language, the TH is pronounced as a hard T. So in the scientific community, it's pronounced Neanderthal. You can say Neanderthal, that is correct, but it's a clear indication that you are not a member of the scientific community, which is also okay. Okay, so first discovered in the Neander Valley in Germany, lived about 150,000 to 30,000 years ago, so not that long ago at all. In fact, there's a lot of debate in the scientific community if Neanderthals did actually interbreed with Homo sapiens, and analysis of DNA is beginning to confirm that idea, though it's not solidly confirmed yet. They constructed burial sites for their dead, which was remarkable because, again, it's showing an advancement in society. And they wore jewelry and they wore clothing, which indicates that they had some free time, which indicates that they were becoming very advanced in their food gathering techniques. So they were actually very similar to modern humans, still a little bit more primitive than modern humans, but very similar. And here's an artist's interpretation of what Homo sapien Neanderthal may have looked like. And you can see them wearing clothing and using tools, and very much starting to look like modern humans. So let's talk about modern humans. Again, we are in the genus Homo, the species sapien, but we are a subspecies of sapien, so we are known as Homo sapiens sapiens. The first hominid truly identical to modern humans appeared in Africa about 100,000 years ago, and were called Cro-Magnon. That's going to be very important. You're probably going to be tested on that word Cro-Magnon. Understand that Cro-Magnon was probably the first true ancestor to modern humans. They had very complex cultures. They were talented artists. When I say very complex cultures, I'm talking about in comparison to Australopithecus, Homo erectus, Homo habilis. They used a wide variety of stone and bone tools, so we start to see spear points, knives, chisels, needles, other tools of modern civilization. They did live side by side with Neanderthals in several locations around the globe. This is why it's thought that the two may have interbred. And when Neanderthals disappeared, only Homo sapiens sapiens remained to populate the rest of the world. Why it was Homo sapiens sapiens? There's a lot of different theories, but when we think about evolution and natural selection, it's probably because Homo sapiens sapiens were the best adapted for their environment. Okay, and that is our story about the evolution of modern humans. Absolutely fascinating to think about how we went from the Big Bang to modern humans, thinking about everything that we have learned in this unit.